Here we go. Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Lesser Known Classics. This episode number 3199 and Doubleshot number 3093. Yes, I do know the next episode is going to be episode 3200. And it's going to be an image trade, a Marvel trade for that one. But it's going to be an interesting one per se. So, first up we have is Spawn, Hell on Earth. This book collects issues 263 to 275 of the Spawn ongoing series. This is your creative team for the book, which is interesting at best. By the way, Eric Larson does the cover art here for 260 to 266. Ravi Albuquerque does 267. 266, 268 is Ferris Sicker. Haircut Habach does 260 and 275. 270 is Nivek Carrera. Ashley Wood is 271, 274. 272 is the Austin McFarlane. And 273 is Roman Nosu. The writers for plot, script, layouts, pentos, and inks for 260, 266 is Eric Larson and Tom McFarlane. The artwork for issues 267, 275 is Seisman Karotsky. Tom Levin does the plot for issues 267, 271. And so we start out, Al Simmons is back on Earth. And he is just wearing just a piece of underwear. Everyone's like confused by it. Yeah. And he mentioned what happened in the previous set of issues. Yeah, I mentioned that he left Earth back from 185 to 250. Yep. So the cops try to take him down. So basically it's a punch because he's technically just walking there. Then he punches them. Then they shoot him in the arm like, well, I'm bleeding? He punches, then eventually he's knocked out. Wakes up in the hospital. He's like, what's going on? Why do I have handcuffs? Ground safety. Just settle down. You guys shot me for nothing, and you want me to settle down? That's ballsy. Read on your prints. Nothing come up on you. Let's figure out your identity. You're stuck in this hospital, and you won't heal quite fine, Doctor said. Is that right? Lucky for you guys. Just needs information. Looking for talk to? Yes. His name is Terry Fitzgerald. He works for the FBI or some government agency. He'll clear us up. Until then, I won't talk. And then here's Terry. By the way, according to Terry, he had not seen him in 4 years. He is back. And apparently, Wanda died a year prior to the events of this main story here. And he's like, oh crap, they did it to me again. Did what? Shift the time. Yes, this happened before, at the start of the series. Because Al Simmons assumed he would go right back to Earth right after he died. He had no idea that about almost 10 years passed by the time he came back. Here, it's very similar. Also signing it in the previous issues was a little girl. Still a little girl, has been since the 1990s. Here, now she's a teenager. Basically wants him, money and place and stuff like that. And basically he's tasked by Wanda to keep an eye on the family. Yeah. Go after who killed Wanda. So, and then of course basically he's taken to a warehouse which apparently has his stuff in it. Yes. And then he goes to a diner to have some coffee. We see, obviously this girl's name is Angela. Which, I'm sure that's McFarlane basically poking fun of Neil Gaiman for taking away Angela, because I'm sure that he still wanted to use Angela at some point in the comics, but because Neil Gaiman sued him, this is probably him just poking the bear. I mean, yeah, Neil Gaiman owns the rights to the character. Well, technically, he's still the character in Marvel Comics. He's doing practically nothing with the character. This is my theory of him poking Neil Gaiman, but not doing anything. And there's this kid based on Spy. It's like, yeah, living as basically introduce himself. And then we have some demons show up in this alley who get the crap beaten up by Spawn. Oh yeah, apparently he doesn't need more money because apparently this warehouse apparently contained a lot of leftover money as a just in case measure. According to him, Juan knew nothing about this at all. So yeah, he's on his own. And of course, we introduced the character, the K. Yes, a guy who looks like a freaking mug with a mouth in his chest. Yes, where he's killing people. And we have Al Simmons get back in shape with Southpaws. He's used to a man named Earl, who becomes a close friend of his with this whole story arc. So then, of course, he goes home, sees some guy outside, and we all see him slowly reforming the symbiote. Got a little bit of it, not much. And apparently one of his neighbors think it's annoying with the whole... They think he's actually swishing his mouth. That's what I think is... yeah, apparently the way it's described with basically the symbiote oozing on his hand, it's like gargling. Yes, that's the way he describes it. So, then of course he puts on a suit with a little bit of the symbiote and proceeds to fight Decay. And takes him out. Yes. And you see apparently he's got... It's implied he got access to the chains. He talks to Earl. They were introduced to the allies. We're introduced to a man named King Spider and this woman in red. Okay, a little bit of explanation about this woman in red. This is Ant, a female character created by a man by the name of Martin Gully. I heard about this from Uncle Jerk Comics, about this character. She first debuted back in 2004. Her creator is a big Todd McFarlane fan. And according to information about this character, he was inspired to create this character. Here's the thing. Martin Gully was a convicted felon who also loved comics as well. And seeing Ant outside of his jail cell, that inspired him to create the character Ant, who is his woman who has gone to a few different books over the years, gone to a couple of companies. He apparently has also some attitude problems, from what I heard. He apparently had a family, but his wife divorced him. Eventually, he got nearly destitute, so he had to sell off his only creation to Eric Larson, who owns the character now and recently had a comic for her. Recently, where he writes and draws it himself. Which I'm like, I don't know how he gets time to do this book, even though he's writing, drawing, coloring, he's doing everything for Savage Dragon, which there's a reason why she's here. And basically she's here as sort of a backdoor pilot to her role in the Savage Dragon book, which would later lead into her own brief solo book by Eric Larson. It was something called Ant. Even though she identifies Ant here, but yes. Now, when I first read this, I did not know anything about Ant at all, about the backstory related to Ant. Check out Uncle Jerk Comics. I'm going to try to find the video if he still has it up on his YouTube channel, where basically he delves deep into this character and her creator. Oh, a little fun fact. One of the volumes, which is later deemed non-canon to the character, is a mature comic, and it shows off nudity. Yes. She's got a few different runs over the years. I think at one point they published in a company, because Image is a creator-owned publishing firm. So then we have a guy who breaks into Al Simmons' apartment, tries to steal his money. He basically convinces Leah to get in a fight with him. So Anne, of course, basically is saved by Al Simmons, who's Spawn, and fights King Spider, who ends up killing him. Yep. And then we have something really cool happening in issue 66. We still have Al using chains, though he doesn't know he used chains. Yes, that's kind of weird axe to it. And then we're introduced to Malcolm Dragon. Yes. Who is this guy, you might ask? He's the son of Savage Dragon. I'm going to talk about his debut in the next trade. Who is this girl with him? That's his wife. Yes, and you're probably all thinking, what's up with the kids in the cribs? I'll discuss that when I get to that point when it comes to Savage Dragon, because it is quite interesting of how these characters were conceived in story. Yeah. Oh, by the way, apparently her parents didn't approve this marriage because her parents wanted to marry some other guy that they really wanted her to marry, despite the fact she loved Malcolm. Oh, yeah, I'll explain more of Malcolm Dragon later on. So, and after introducing yourself, and then we see apparently where Lenny is, and he's missing, and then of course apparently Ant wants to keep an eye on him for some reason. There's a collapse. Here comes Spawn, and here comes Savage Dragon. Well, excuse me, Malcolm Dragon and Ant, who beats the guys up and fights this monstrous woman. Briefly possessed Malcolm Dragon, and he introduced himself, being a polite person because he knows about Spawn. But from his father, Savage Dragon, he's like, "You're right, Spawn. I'm Malcolm Dragon. I believe in my father. We've met. I didn't know he has a son." Yeah. I'm like, that's a cool moment. I'm sure that's probably the lines for Malcolm Dragon were probably written by Eric Larson. And of course, Spawn's lines was written by Todd McFarlane. So this is them collaborating. Now, this is interesting. These two would work together in this story, given the fact that one of the other creators of Image had a falling out with Todd McFarlane, that being Rob Liefeld. And yet, Rob is actually really close with Eric Larson. But he has no problems with him. So after they meet up, and then of course there's two continued pages of Savage Dragon 217, which that's where Malcolm Dragon and Ant will pop up again. Great to talk about the character Ant. She's a very interesting character. Like, there's not a lot related to her. I mean, she only made a debut like 21 years ago. She's appeared in a handful of comics, and at least she was featured, like the character Haunt, who was another Tom McFarlane creation, which McFarlane ended his comic after 20 issues, and it was created a book, oh, he's going to be a recurring character in the pages of Spawn. And he never appeared in the comic. Never did. He now currently is appearing in the She-Spawn comic. So then, of course, and then they begin the next story arc here, because Eric Larson is done with the book. He basically was here just to have this story here serve as a backdoor pilot to a story he was doing in his own book, which is fine. I'm sure McFarlane's like, sure, whatever. That's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. We have Malcolm Dragon meeting Spawn for the first time. Now, it's also mentioned here that Cyan, who is Terry Wanda's daughter, apparently when she got older, she became a drug addict. And yes, so now she's a teenage living in this center, not halfway house, a center, where he kind of know who he is, but she does not exactly know who he is, doesn't know him very well, probably because basically he wasn't around very much, because, well, when she first may have met him, she was basically a kid, she probably didn't know him. And then, of course, Terry basically doesn't have what happened in the thing, like, they keep blames, well, out what happens, like, he gets an apostle who's doing drugs and goes after the guy, and, well, then this, for some weird reason, now, Terry, of course, a lot of paragraphs that McFarlane occasionally does this. So, then, by the way, we're up to 268, mind you. We still got about a little more to go for this one. So, after killing more people here, and Spawn slowly getting his power back. At one point, he gets to cover his body, but not fully. Then meets up with, and we have Terry with Cyan again. He has Spawn going to her dealer. He eventually does find the guy. And after Terry says bye to his two younger children, who are a tad bit older than they were in the previous issues. Yes, they're a little bit older. They're basically going to school now. And then he gets a phone call talking to this agent friend of his. Yes. And it's up with Al and Earl. And of course the box. With more stuff here. And yeah. and stuff with a cloak. And then, of course, Cyan uses his powers to teleport herself and Al out of the center she was basically in treatment for to Al's apartment. Yes, they go straight to his apartment. And, of course, Terry is called. And somehow now, Cyan does know about Spawn. And apparently it's loosely got some powers to him. And, of course, apparently he's got powers to access chains. And then after talking, and after this guy called Mr. Shade shows up here, who apparently got his own gas mask, and he probably does not know what the heck is going on. So, and then for some weird reason, I'm not sure why McFarlane did this for. So, it's the Conciliaire. Yes, the guy who helped train Spawn back in the 90s. Now, he is Neil Gaiman character, but Neil Gaiman didn't sue over him. He sued Todd over Angela, not this guy. I think the reason why that Todd was able to keep this character, because Todd had woven him so deep in the Spawn mythos. Angela is kind of in there, yes, but because of the lawsuit, he was able to write her out of the mythos so she was no longer needed. This is probably the first time in years that he probably showed up in the comic, and it turns out Spawn was finding them because of the costume. It's also found out that apparently, like, oh yeah, go back to the apartment because what I'm saying is you should be fine. So apparently it's Axe of Chains and the SWAT team shows up. Lane 271, where it takes all these SWAT members out really easily. Also takes Chains to cover himself. Oh yeah, and also he, later on in this reveal, he actually got his powers back, so he supposedly didn't have powers. Thanks to a bunch of helicopters, some people flying over the place, and well, they're like, "You got me. You made a mistake. Made a mistake." Yep. I've taken them out. Yep. Oh yeah, by the way, Terry got brought in by his supervisor, and Terry's like, "You got the wrong person." Yes. And I'm not sure what McFarlane was thinking when he wrote this. He or him or probably his co-writer. Where it's almost like the way this is happening here is that this supervisor might be a bit... Now, this is something interesting though. It's almost like the way it's written here, of course, Terry points this out though about the supervisor. Do you think all black people look exactly alike? So, Todd is throwing in racial profiling in here. What is racial profiling? Some people can't tell other people by different skin color. People think by their skin color, they look like everybody with the same exact skin color look exactly alike. That is what basically Terry is implying here. He's not stating it per se, but that's why I can tell by looking at the scene here that he thinks that his boss is like, because there's a bunch of blurry images, there's no proof he's involved with, and he's also accused of, get this, his boss is accusing him of supplying drugs to his own daughter, despite the fact there's no evidence to support that. And I wonder if Tom McFarlane is also in the conversation of some things, basically people were saying things, and immediately somehow it's true despite the fact there's no hard evidence to back it up. That's just my opinion anyways for that. So, Spawn pays the guy a visit. After taking more people out here, and by the way, we also return to Sam and Twitch the title. Yes, this is the first time they've been back, and Twitch basically is the guy with the glasses. Sam is the chubby guy who basically, there was a joke about him in the animated series where, oh, you eat 2 dozen donuts. He's like, I ate 1 dozen. I'm on a diet. Yeah, it's a recurring gag with these guys. And eventually, these 2 guys will get another comic book. Yes, another one. And of course, basically, like, Twitch, basically, and of course we have the reporter who's still been on here for the longest time since the start of the series. This guy here in the bottom, of the page, Yeah, this guy has been there since the start of the series. And all because Al Simmons is back. There's a brief cameo here by, I kid you not, Donald Trump. Yes. And here's something interesting about this particular scene. And I'm glad McFarlane didn't write it this way. At least just appearing on the news. He's not saying anything. There's nothing offensive about what he's doing. He just there in the news because he's the president. So, yeah, then of course kills the guys, and then we deal with the actual smoking gun, and yes, so eventually, of course, he does convince the guy to, well, after releasing Terry, yes, because of corruption in the FBI, after freeing a buddy, basically by 275. Then can Sam switch and a visit, well, from Spawn, which is really interesting. I love this little image here of the way this is drawn here, where Spawn is here behind him. Where Twitch knows this is Spawn, because these two have dealt with each other for years. And it was pointed out, though, I think it was Sam or Twitch once shot him, and Spawn pointed out to him, your bullets don't work on me. No matter how many times you shoot me, they won't work. Yep, so, and apparently it's implied that Twitch locked the bathroom door, but nope, he did not. He had nothing to do with that. So, then of course Terry is convinced to leave the country. Yep. Of all the supernatural stuff here. So, basically, Terry and Cyan leave the country, and they go to Tokyo. And this next issue, amazing artwork by Jason Sean Alexander. And this leads to a bunch of storylines, which I have covered already for the channel. Like Enemy of State. I think it was like Dark Shadow, I think it was. Oh, good. I was looking at base. Apparently, Death Mark Trailer ups again in our season. I'm like, good, very good. It's good, damn good series. Okay, so if I can find it here, here we go. So I have discussed Dark Horror, Enemy of State, Vengeance, Record Breaker, Omega, and Shadows. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 7 trades I have discussed before. I would probably recommend looking up my channel. That's what I would suggest anyways. But with this, basically, second half the 200s are done for Spawn. And there's no denying, this book is amazing. It's like, you read this book, this builds upon a lot of lore when it comes to Spawn. It's like, you read these 12 issues, it builds upon, like, all the years of Spawn. It's like, you have to be a long-time Spawn fan to enjoy this storyline. And a bunch of other stuff happens. At one point, Spawn, Al Simmons is in jail, but overall, great stuff here for this book. And I get Spawn, Hell on Earth, a 10 out of 10, because the book was really good. Despite its mild hiccup with racial profiling, but damn good book. I enjoyed this book. Next up we have is Savage Dragon Archives Volume 3, which contains 51 to 75 of Savage Dragon. So things starts out with the, well, with Savage Dragon be gone, show She-Dragon takes over the title briefly. And we also involve the Greek gods here, per se. Eventually, after about a dozen or so issues, Savage Dragon does come back to life. Also, during this period of time when Savage Dragon is dead, the characters of Rita and William, who got together in the previous volume, they decided to get... apparently, it's found out that Rita's pregnant, and later on these two get engaged and married, and eventually these two do in fact get married, and they apparently gave birth to a few different kids. And it's also shown that the character of Smasher, her name being Angel, actually her name Jennifer, Angel's the daughter. So she's in love with Savage Dragon, and apparently Rapture's dead at this point in time because Rapture does briefly come back. And when Savage Dragon does come back, he points out, "You're not Rapture. She's dead." And it took a little bit of time, but eventually Dragon did come back. And then eventually, then after dating Jennifer for a while, apparently to annoyance of her daughter, where apparently these two were having sex in another room, and it was just making it so annoying. Okay, I get the fact they're a happily loving couple, but they probably shouldn't wake up the daughter, who looks like she's about 6 or 7-ish. But she's very smart for a little girl. Eventually, these two do get engaged to be married, and then before the wedding, Jennifer gets replaced by a replacement, a Sith. And it's also found out in these issues that Star, basically the Captain America universe, goes to the Old Minds dimension, and it's found out that the baby that Rapture Savage Dragon had, which apparently died, was actually alive. Yeah, Malcolm Dragon, alive and well. This book was actually his day appearance. So on the day of the wedding, moments they ought to do, Overlord shows up and proceeds to murder Jennifer. Though this is not the real one. He eventually finds her alive later on in the story. And then eventually finds him and beats the living crap out of him, and somehow beats him to death. And it turns out this guy is from a very high political family. So, because of the fact this is sort of self-defense, mind you, because this is sort of retaliation for the death of his wife, because of the fact that he threatened him and a bunch of witnesses, he is not charged for his death, but apparently the family is looking for restitution, which they're not going to get any. Eventually, of course, a bunch of multiverse stuff, hijinks ensue. Eventually, he does find out his wife's actually alive and well. He also finds out his son is alive. Also, before this, he starts dating a local attorney, which is pointed out by his now stepdaughter, who calls him Daddy. Points out, "Daddy, she likes you." And these two start dating. At one point, they meet Rita and William's children, which she points out, "Aw, cute babies. This one's ugly." And that's what caused them to leave. Because Angel called one of the babies ugly. And for the look of it, basically, why the heck basically baby look like that for? I don't know. They say babies. It's implied there was more than one here, but it's implied there's about 3 here. So it's implied that Rita gave birth to triplets, but we only see one baby. And describing the other two being cute, but one is ugly. Yeah. Oh, in case you're curious, though, did Dragon get Angel pregnant? Not Angel. Did he get Jennifer pregnant? No, never did. Eventually, of course, this whole thing with Youngblood, basically the super organization Dragon was part of, they brought an apparently an actual serial killer who killed a police officer onto the team, and the replacement for Dragon, the one replacing his leader. He tells the guy in charge named Stevenson, which I'm sure this is probably not to Eric Stevenson. I think this is a nod to, I think, the publisher of Image. I think so. Who points out to him, "This is a bad idea. The man is a killer." He's like, "Well, he was only convicted of assaulting a police officer. He's a freaking serial killer." And he's proven to be right. Also, the gods get involved too in the story. She-Dragon briefly disappears, so she comes back. Eventually, the lawyer lady who was dating Dragon breaks up, and that's when the whole multiverse stuff happens. And, we see Rapture back. And this kind of is Rapture, but not really. This is not a copy of her it was not a clone. This is actually from a full different universe, so probably won't see her again. Excuse me. But all in all, this book was really good. And, of course, we advanced the story really well. I think with the very next volume, we're getting to issue 100 for Savage Dragon. Yes. Oh, in the case of Spawn, the next trade, because, of course, hoping a chance to go to the Compendium next, Volume 5, the very next one to cover is going to be Bad Business. Yes, there's actually 2 more trades left to go. The last one just came up this past February. Yes. Yep, but how much to save the 2 trades? Enjoy both of them. Oh, by the way, you have Savage Dragon Archives by Eric Larson, Volume 3, a 10 out of 10. Now, I do have about 3 more I'm going to cover for these things, and I'm going to switch to a different set of Chapey bags, but it's a good the regular ones afterwards. Because these ones are black and white, and the other ones are in color, so I'll be able to review the ones in color. So, that's pretty much it, particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up, I'm the evil lord of Intergalactic Empire. Okay, see you. Bye.